Okay, yes, I'm getting some levels. They're very low, so I'm turning them up.
1 2 1 2 1 2.
Yes, there they are. Okay. We have audio, we have video. Let me go back to it real quick. Right screen, go for it.
1 2 1 2 1 2.
Very low.
Okay, I'll have to run that up.
Okay.
Okay, Daniel, are we
I hear you.
One minute?
Yep, go for it.
All right. About 40 seconds. All right. Hey, Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me? Let's wait for Roger to get back.
Okay.
On this camera, do we want to go through every mic? Is that what you're waiting on, Roger? Okay. When you talk into the mic, go ahead and pull it towards you. That way we won't have to turn it up too loud and get feedback. So for right now, I just want to test every mic. If someone could give me a mic check on each mic.
Mic check.
All right.
Mic check number 2.
Oh, hold on.
Testing, 1 2 3.
Roger, that's not good.
Mic check.
I think you're good.
Mic check.
This one? Okay. Oh, this sounds a lot better.
Oh, that's better. More Roger.
Mic check. Testing. Testing.
No, same thing. Then just for expediency's sake, you three will share this mic right here. So I'll take it out of the stand.
2 of us can share this one.
Whoa. Okay. There we go. That's it.
Testing. Oh, let's wow.
Okay. Raj. One more time.
Mic check. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This mic right here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Raj. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
Maybe he should.
Maybe we can do 3-3.
Maybe he should switch because I'm kind of low.
Okay. That's a lot of feedback right there. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2.
No, they're just saying that. I mean,
So let's get rid of the green and see what we have. You're gonna need to hear my microphone. And so I'm not sure, but right now, if we have to switch and just use the 2 microphones, let's do that. But let's just get something that doesn't ring for right now, so we can get started. So do you want me to remove these 2 microphones? Okay, this one.
Testing, testing,
Okay, that one's fine. Then we're good.
testing, testing
one.
again.
Not so good, but it looks good where it's sitting. Okay. Hey, Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Let's go in 30 seconds and give me a 10, please. Watch where you can. Okay. Give me a 10, Daniel.
Okay.
And I'll need to hear it loudly.
Gotcha. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town Hall meeting at Columbia City Theater. We will be discussing the recent uptick in violent crimes and burglaries in South Seattle. My name is Tony B. Welcome to the Columbia City Theater and Rainier Avenue Radio. We decided on Friday, just last Friday, to do this. So we put this together in less than 6 days. So thank you all for coming. Part of that was the importance of what was going on. We started in September saying, okay, we have to do something, and took a look at it. And then it was a matter of, you can't plan for this, you just do it and make it happen. So I really appreciate everyone taking your time to come out today to have this discussion. We've got politicians, we've got police officers, we've got business owners, and we've got residents here. We've got a mic out there so that we can hear your opinions, your thoughts. If you have solutions, fine. If you feel a certain way about something, we are free to discuss that. The importance of this is to make sure that our community is informed. Now, I don't have a particular agenda other than public safety. The one thing that I would say that's important to me is the danger of one voice. So this is a very nuanced issue. Some of you may feel like we need more police. Some of you may want to defund the police. Some of you may feel that the homeless issue is the issue. Some of you may feel like, why would you criminalize homelessness? There's going to be a lot of different thoughts that you will hear from this stage today. I ask everyone to, at the very least, be patient and understand that there are multiple thoughts and opinions, but this is really about informing our community and making sure that our community is aware of what's taking place. I use the word violent intentionally because you shouldn't have to worry about whether if you go to the bank or if you are in your car or you are going into your home, if someone is going to knock you upside the head or put a gun to your head. That's not a good look for our community. We're also going to discuss the reasons behind this. Why is there this uptick, in particular among teens, in violent crime? Now, I'm not saying that criminals shouldn't go to jail. I'm just saying that we have to understand as a community that there are reasons behind this. And if we don't also, as a community, start taking a look at what the causes are for this, I don't think that we can arrest our way out of this problem. So I'm going to get started here by having our panel introduce themselves so that you know who's on the panel. Again, this is going to be kind of free form, but I do want to make sure that everyone knows who our panelists are. Your opinions are incredibly important to this conversation. So that mic that Deanne is holding is for you, but I want to start with our panelists right now. Mr. Davis, would you introduce yourself, please?
Welcome, everyone. My name is Gregory Davis, and I'm the managing strategist for Rainier Beach Action Coalition. We're an organization in Rainier Beach that stewards the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan.
Hi, my name is Jay Ware, and I have been a member of the Columbia City community for 30 years. So I've seen a lot of change. I have 3 adult children. They all attended Seattle Public Schools, and I work in the Superior Court system.
I'm Connie So. Ooh, okay. I'm Connie So, and I'm a teaching professor at the University of Washington's American Ethnic Studies Department. But I think more important, I'm a 55-year resident of South Seattle, and all my kids, my whole family, all went to Seattle Public Schools as well. And I'm currently the president of OCA Asian Pacific American Advocates. And I'm really happy to be with all of you, that we can all collaborate, listen to each other. And it's sad that something like this is what has to bring us all together.
Hi, my name is Tanya Wu. I grew up in Beacon Hill in early 1990s. My sister was in a gang, and so experienced and saw what that was like back then. I'm a small business owner. I now live on Rainier Beach. And also helped start a group called the Chinatown International District Community Watch. We have feet on the ground. We go into our encampments. We try to help our in-house neighbors. We also consider ourselves an alternative to policing. We also work with first responders because we believe it's an all-and-above approach to be able to make a dent in what we're seeing today. And so I'm honored to be here, and thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Maria Batiola, and I chair the Beacon Hill Council. So in Beacon Hill in South Seattle, we really are disinvested, and we're very concerned about a lot of the environmental justice, criminal justice, climate issues down in Beacon Hill. So I serve as co-chair of Political Voice for Filipino American Political Action Group of Washington.
My name is John Hayes, and lifelong resident of Seattle, and I was a police officer for 39 years with the Seattle Police Department, done a variety of things, worked a lot in the Columbia City area and throughout the city as well. And I'm not representing the police department. Just so you kind of know a little bit of background on that piece of it. I retired, and I was a social worker before I was a cop, and I flavored my style of policing around social work. And I may be able to give you some examples, depending on the questions, of how well that worked. And then the last part, play gospel music up at Immaculate Conception Church for 38 years. So I just want to take that part too.
Do we have, I know that they were here earlier, someone from Community Passageways? Are they still here? Okay, Community Passageways is an organization that works with youth, and a couple of members, 3 of the members were here earlier. I know that they had to leave, and I definitely wanted to get their voices in. So we're going to get started. I want to start off first, Mr. Davis, by having you share a little bit more about the Rainier Beach Action Coalition. This is not something new for you. You've been dealing with this issue for quite a while, and so we have an audience listening that's here. We have an audience listening from literally all over the world, other cities that are trying to find out what we are doing to solve this particular thing. That it's not just South Seattle. It's all over the place. We're concerned about South Seattle because this is our community. And I see Nick here as well, and I'm gonna have you come up and join us on the stage, Nick, because you're supposed to be up here. So maybe you know, have chair, we'll travel. Yeah, bring chair. And so, oh, okay, there's a chair up here. And so for anyone who's unfamiliar, there is this thing called the Rainier Beach Action Coalition. So for someone, Mr. Davis, who doesn't know who you are, doesn't know about the Rainier Beach Action Coalition, will you share what you do and a little bit about what you've done? And I'm gonna give you a couple minutes. We've got a lot to talk about, so that folks are more familiar with the role that you play in the Rainier Beach area, which again has been an area where there have been some problems. And the thing is, we're just gonna have open, honest, frank conversation. Mr. Davis?
All right, thank you. And yeah, thanks for the invitation. Again, Gregory Davis is my name, and we use the title Managing Strategist because we developed strategy out of the Rainier Beach Neighborhood Plan, going back just a few years when the first Black mayor of Seattle got into office. You know, that's Norm Rice. He asked every neighborhood in the city to create a plan. He wanted to hear the hopes and visions of the people in the neighborhood so that he can form his administration around those hopes and dreams. And so Rainier Beach was one of those neighborhoods that created a neighborhood plan. And I see a couple of neighborhood friendlies out there, the Atlantic Street Center, Teresa and Dr. Pila. Thanks for being here. And so we've held on to that. That was 1994. We stewarded a neighborhood plan update in 2012. And one of the things that we knew was that a beautiful neighborhood is a safe neighborhood. So we sought to implement strategies that created that beauty. One of them was actually is our project called Rainier Beach Beautiful Safe Place for Youth. We used data from the Seattle Police Department. We identified the locations in the neighborhood that had the highest incidences of crime, incidences that contributed to youth crime. We found out what time of day it happens, and we found out what time of week it happens. And then what we do is we deploy young people through this methodology that we call youth and neighborhood engagement. And we deployed adults through this methodology called guardianship. And we formed a community-led, non-arrest crime intervention that focused on what the research said out of Georgia State University was hotspots. But as a neighborhood, we changed the name to Pearl to match that nautical theme that Rainier Beach had. We started this in 2010, and at those particular locations, since 2015, we have seen a decrease in incidences that contribute to youth crime by 30% over that time. One of the things that we want to make sure, and the residents and the young people wanted me to read this so that they would know that you know, our neighborhood does not want nor deserves to be characterized by the crime that existed. Mm-hmm. Because they say there's more than 10 million jobs unfilled in this nation. That's probably a characterization, because then we know who it is that is probably benefiting from what has happened. So our sense is that it is one thing for us to band together as a community, do some community-led non-arrest intervention. We do see and have seen the impact, particularly when you involve young people. And we also know, as Mr. Bitton says, it's not just here in South Seattle. This is a national issue. And it doesn't start with crime. Crime's a symptom of something, right? Yeah, we're talking about poverty. We're talking about homelessness. We're talking about lack of jobs. And that's where we're saying it needs to happen. So that's one of the reasons why Rainier Beach Action Coalition hires folks from the neighborhood to implement these strategies, to employ these methodologies that we just shared. So, I'm gonna stop there because, got other distinguished panels, other people who have meaningful things to say. Our hope is that it's the meaningful things that surface above the fray that we may get involved in here today. I know everybody has some reasoning behind what they're saying, but our hope is that what's meaningful actually winds up surfacing from the fray so that we can get into some action around those.
All right, let me get Nick into the conversation. Nick, can you pass that mic over here? Nick, just explain to folks who you are, who you're with, why you're here.
So my name is Nick. I'm from the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. I'm one of the community outreach organizers, and I facilitate the criminal record vacating, expungement, and sealing program. And we also host a variety of other activities that try and get community civically engaged in environmental justice efforts, and overall just engaged in ways to help low-income BIPOC communities better access resources.
Thank you. I'm gonna go to the audience really quickly. Tanya, Maria, Christine. Like I said, this is just frank conversation. Is this a Asian on Asian crime situation that we're looking here? I'm just telling you what I'm hearing from the community. And obviously we know it's more than that. But again, right now, what I'm trying to do is inform our community about what's taking place. Would that be an accurate statement when it comes to violent home burglaries?
I'll go. Do you want me and Tanya to go ahead and get the background on this? Actually, I think a lot of us have been.
Can
here
you
for
talk to the mic, please?
A lot of us have been here for a long time. You all probably remember when Mamie Louie was killed, and there was a lot of it. That was the whole Wild May massacre and all these other things, right? So a lot of us became more aware about the home invasions. And I know even my family, we had Asian American young kids come up to my mom, and she had started to have dementia, and she always opened the door for people. And, so it had been characterized for many years, back in the 1980s, 1990s, as an Asian on Asian group. In fact, there were some gangs, the I-5 gang, the BTK gang, they all were seen as people who did Asian on Asian crime. However, that is no longer as much the case. And I think that it's unfortunate. We all know a lot of crime spreads, and I think with the hate that's been going on, it's definitely changed. But a lot of times on television, I think we put together the Solidarity Conference, and part of it was because there was a lot of race baiting going on. And a lot of the race baiting that was going on were some people, not from South Seattle, but there was actually someone knocking on doors and asking people, Asian Americans, are you scared when you see Black teenagers coming up? And I was so stunned. I was so angry. So anyway, I told him I lived here almost all my life since I immigrated from Hong Kong. I said, we have never been like that. I said, South Seattle has always been a place where African Americans, Asian Americans, and BIPOC people, everybody got along. I mean, we have some issues, but it's not racialized like that. And I said, for you to go around asking that, I said, you ask me, I'm afraid a lot of kids nowadays. Doesn't matter about race. And I said, how dare you go ahead and instigate that kind of hatred, that kind of fear as an Asian American, not from our area. And so this is why we did this in the afternoon on Sunday. That's when I had my argument with him. And the very next day, on Monday, we got together and a lot of people came out, even though it was a work day. And I think that kind of shows our community. Now, going back to whether or not it's Asian and Asian, definitely there's a lot of Asian and Asian crime. There's a lot of Black on Black crime. There's a lot of white on white crime. And what I was telling him I didn't like is the fact that there's a lot of intersections in South Seattle in big cities. They also have cameras. The cameras catch it when it's African American or Asian or somebody else and someone else. I said, but you're exaggerating it because national crime statistics show it's mostly white. Now, of course, it's more white people. That could be the reason too. And I said, and in terms of reportage, I said, part of it is I think we encourage more people to report now than we used to, but it doesn't mean the crime is not there. And, I know there's been 70 incidents so far in Seattle just this year, but that's against Asians. That's the second largest. The biggest one is still African American. And I told them they're calling it like Beacon Hill invasions. I said, most of it is Rainier Valley. I said, definitely Beacon Hill is there, but it worries me that you're normalizing that this should happen in Rainier Valley or some other place. And that it's only unusual because it's Beacon Hill. And I said, I wish you all would stop pitting us against each other. And I think that's the whole thing. Asian on Asian definitely is there. But the main thing is it's crime. People who have a lot of different reasons why they turn to crime. And it sounds like it's all the same people. So I also don't like it. They make it look like it's a lot of teenagers. It wasn't. Even the one with Mamie Louie and the Wabi Massacre, it was a set of people. And so that's why I don't like the Asian on Asian. It's few Asians, a few African Americans, a few whoever. And I don't like the mischaracterization. But anyway, Tanya, go ahead.
Oh, yes, I think it's a crime opportunity. I mean, the Asians don't report. There is not trust between Asian communities and authorities. There's also, cultural differences as well, where they are mostly non-English refugee immigrant communities, and not only is there a language barrier, but they don't report right away. And they don't want to cause waves. They think it's bad luck to draw attention to themselves, and also the mistrust in the banking system. I think it's common knowledge now. There's a lot of cash and valuables they keep at home or they keep on themselves. And also in Chinese culture, we don't make eye contact. We find it too aggressive. So trying to teach people to be aware of each other, to look out for each other, be aware of your surroundings when you go into your home, and please report, because we know this is being underreported. And we're seeing, we're not seeing the statistics go up or down because people just not reporting at all. So I think it's cultural differences and also crime opportunity.
Maria, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm going to come at it from another place. What really worries me is the fact that the recent spate of crime is against Asians. Now, it's very hard for me to imagine that there's no racism and stereotyping about that. Okay? I mean, let's be frank. Why are they picking on them? Why are they picking on us, particularly immigrants? And the boldness of breaking down a front door, that's something else. And, usually when somebody is robbing your house, they don't want to get caught. They are going to go on the side of the house, they're going to go to the back, look for a window, look for a door. The boldness, the emboldenedness of the people, this gentleman, quote unquote, who broke 9 windows at a beloved cultural institution, Wayne Wood Museum. That's like, if somebody did that to the African American Museum, that's like total desecration and disrespect.
Maria, was that individual African American?
He's a white guy, older white guy.
It was a white guy.
Yeah, who said that, the Chinese brought problems on him and that he had to do something about it. So he had to go to Chinatown. And I tell you, this environment we're in, people used to think, I'm a product of civil rights. I did 33 years of civil rights leadership in government. Back then, you've got the people who really are bold, and then you have those in between who know enough to hold their mouth, to hold their action. They may think it, but now this emboldenedness is out in your face, taking action, taking racist action. No, our communities are going to organize. Beacon Hill is usually pretty quiet because we're residential, and we have relationships. Our families are intertwined. And so this separation and division is just somebody's making that up. And we need to keep coming out with our truth. My son presents Black. He's half Filipino, half white, but his very close friends are Black. And yes, he does get treated as Black. And it ain't right. And we're all going to deal with this, right? We're all going to deal with this.
I want to go to the audience right now. I've had several people contact me and tell me what has happened to them. When we talked about this issue, I had someone tell me that their grandmother was followed home from the bank, strong-armed, robbed as she was ready to enter her home. That's not my story, but that's a story that someone wanted to share with me. And as I mentioned before, this is the place to share stories. And so I want to hear from someone. Just raise your hand. We've got someone over there. And I want to hear, have you seen anything? Have you heard anything? What your thoughts are? I wanted to start this discussion off by listening to our panel members, but I definitely want to go to the audience, and I'll give you a couple minutes. We want to get to a lot of people, so just introduce yourself and then tell us what you have to say.
My name is James Ross, and I've seen a lot of things around the world as well as different parts of the country. I think we like beating a dead horse to be pointing a racial finger because crime doesn't necessarily have a color. And what we're dealing with now is a new drug on the street. They come up from the Caribbean. I seen it 10 years ago in Puerto Rico, and they were shooting it, the drug addicts, so that the limbs rot from the inside out. And so this is a permanent situation, what's being done to the body. So really, it's a very serious drug crisis that we're dealing with. So I didn't want to come here to this meeting. I'm excited about this facility though and making use of it in the future. I expose myself as being a part of your homeless community. Now I've come here for the first time many years ago. I'll be 60 next year. I worked as a commercial fisherman. A lot of those companies are here in Seattle, working up in Alaska. So that's afforded me to travel around the world. I live at the Compass Center downtown. And I believe that social and economic revitalization with the production of goods and services is the key, the secret to ending this problem. It had to come, the idea, the resource had to come from the bottom up, from the one who is at eye level. So this can go round and round if y'all want, and have another town hall next year about the same thing. I know this has been done before, but that's all I got to say about it is, solution rather than continue.
Thank you, James. Can we get some commentary from someone else in the audience? Just raise your hand. We have somebody right up front here, and it can be about that. It can be about whatever you want to say. Right now, I want these folks to hear what you have to say. I want the folks in the rest of this room to hear what you have to say. I want those who are listening to us and watching us to hear what you have to say. So no holds barred.
My name is Omar Abdul-Alim. I grew up in the South End. I'm the former president of Rainier Beach Union Football and Cheerleading. And, I brought this up in 2006 about the field usage fees at Rainier Beach, about they were going to price out our program. I talked to Larry Gossett about it in 2006. I talked to Senator Bob Hazagawa about it, Senator Eric Pettigrew about it. I talked to Dow Constantine about it, Judge Sinclair. I even, I talked to all of them about it. I even talked to Mayor Bruce Harrell before he was mayor about it, about what this would do. And we had a program. That program had been around since at least 1975 when I was a child there, but I know it was there before then. And that program, when we had it down there, 30 to 40% of the crime was reduced down there on Rainier Beach. All right, that was a program that we took young boys and young girls, mentored them. These were kids that people thought nobody could do nothing with them. But we did remarkable things. We won championships. Some of those kids are in college. Danny Shelton, he played in the NFL. We made some impact. And then to tell them that when they redid the field, you're not grandfathered in. I thought the fact that we been down since 1978, Larry Gossett said was equity in itself, but nothing was ever done. It went from $1,100 to $2,200 to $3,200 to $3,300 to $4,300 to $5,200 to $6,200 to rent the field from July to November. And you look now, there's no more football programs running down Rainier Avenue no more. The only one I see is Simpler. These were programs that helped African American youth and youth. It didn't matter what color they were. They wanted to play the sport of football. They were down there. But they opened up the door for soccer teams now. You read your Bible in Proverbs, what does it say? Wealth maketh many friends, the poor separated from the snake. It doesn't have to be that. It does not have to be that. But what I see is that those programs that helped our youth don't get the same attention that the kids from the other programs get. And everything. That's all I have to say is that you take away programs that help the youth at risk, you're going to have violence. They're not, without them, they're going to have. If you have a structured environment where kids learn about discipline, accountability, things of that nature, they may not go the bad way.
I wanna, and I appreciate what you said.
I was there for 22 years for the whole program.
Do you think, based on what you just said, that that is a reason, and why would it result in teens being violently aggressive when committing crimes?
Well, I think that there's other factors also. You don't have fathers in the home, all right? You don't have the village, more or less. Take the whole village, all right? And these football coaches were like, we weren't just football coaches, we were like mentors, father figures to these kids. Our program was the village. Our program was the village. You need a real community. I remember as a kid growing up in Holland Park, one thing I learned there was about unconditional love and real community. Because the Black Panthers were there also, so they had a breakfast program. But we had these programs, and if you don't have any kind of program that takes youth and shows them discipline, structure, accountability, where are they going to go? They're going to go out into the streets, and it may not be the best choices out there. No.
What do you think should be? What do you there right now committing violent crimes against elders in our community, understanding that there may have been circumstances that led to this? Should the punishment match the crime, or should there be some sort of intervention?
Well, there's some things I say. Does accountability, is that outdated? Is accountability outdated? No, it's not. If you go out, you do a violent crime, you need to be accountable for what you've done. You can't just slap somebody on the wrist and say, you know, if they don't feel like there's no accountability, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. I look at the drug issue now. Okay, when black and brown people were smoking crack cocaine, they got arrested. One rock, a year and a day. One crack pipe, a year and a day. But now they can have a quarter gram of heroin and now make it a misdemeanor. But when it was felony, come on, man. And you're coming with a solution, do something now. Why don't you do what you did when you arrested us? It is what it is. We had a whole generation of youth now acting like that because there was no parents there. There was no family there to teach them the right way. All right? I had that. He had that. They don't have it. And it takes a few brothers out in the neighborhood to care, to go out there and try to get it. You know?
I want to go back. So have your questions ready, Captain Hayes. Does what he's talking about impact the way we police, or that the police? Or crime is crime, I think. But as you mentioned, you try to put social work in that. But at the end of the day, we hear stories. Recently, we've heard a few of them about the Seattle police officers, and you know, a woman was run over, and we've heard about, well, that's about $11,000. People have gotten shot. There is a distrust factor. These are some things that we know, but right now does what this gentleman just mentioned about the reasons why there may be an uptick in violence, in particular among teens, change the way that police?
I have so many answers or responses, I should say, for all of what's gone around, the questions, the concerns. Panelists, you've said some great things that are the truth of the matter, because it will touch on racism. It will touch on individuals that have no real guidance. It'll touch on the fact of accountability. There are so many things that are going on right now that need all these pieces of the puzzle coming together. And I think, personally, after 39 years plus of doing this, I know we have the answer. We just don't, there's not enough confidence in being able to say, I know we have the answer. There's not enough confidence in folks that are trying to come together, but we're also being hit in a dramatic fashion with the drug issue. With the drug issue, it's not just this thing that you could just see on the ground and call it whatever. Now it's so hidden where you can't touch a piece of paper without dying. And hang on one second. So when we go back and we look at what we need to look at, we have to decide which one of these categories, which one of these areas, because we do have what it takes to make these changes. Policing hasn't always been perfect. I'm not getting deep into anything in particular from up here because I am removed from the Seattle Police Department right now as retiring, okay? But I remember when I started, you couldn't drive through Columbia City. And it wasn't until people started walking with their dogs to help out in the community. It wasn't until individuals like Pat Clark, the judge, who the center is named after, decided to get creative about her approach. And we worked hand in hand on the approach to what crime was about and how we were going to change things. So when you ask about in policing, there are so many things that we are involved with, and some people are very, very good at it. Very good at it. And they need to have that chance to continue to show, to make a difference on the things that you're talking about that means the world. I went a little long on that because when you asked the question, so many things went through the room.
Okay, I'm gonna
stop now.
I'm gonna ask you really quickly, because if you have the answer, I think that's why we're all here. And you said you have the answer. So can you briefly tell us, share with us what the answer is?
I will say the answer this way. One person can't do it by themselves. Everything I was able to accomplish while with SPD, I worked with sociologists. I worked with behavioralists. I worked with defense attorneys. I worked with the ACLU. Do you see what I'm talking about? You have to come out strong with the people you're going to work with. Gregory Davis and I, years of working together.
So the answer is working within community?
It's both. It's all of those things, because accountability has to go hand in hand with the violence that's being created out there. We have to be able to work with folks. And it does not mean you throw everybody in jail. It does not mean that. But there are, whether people want to admit it or say it or not, there are some people that raise their hand to go there. And you don't want that, but there are individuals that they want that kind of accountability. I'm saying that loosely. I'm not saying it in terms of that's how we answer everything.
I'm going to get to a question really quickly. I didn't really hear an answer.
You didn't hear an answer?
I heard some potential solutions, but when you say I have an answer, anyway, that's just me, Captain Hayes.
Yeah.
That's just me. Somebody said they wanted a question for the captain.
He was right against the wall.
Oh, back in the back. And then I know we have some comments up here.
Yeah.
Wait till you get your microphone and then tell us who you are and then share your thoughts.
My name is Mary Williams. And hey, John. Hey, Tanya. And all y'all in the, I know a lot of people in here because we've been fighting this fight for a long time. Really don't want to be on camera, honey. Anyway, the part I was going to say was, John, don't forget about the GOTS project. And what I heard you saying was it's a multi-pronged approach. Yeah. And what I put in the chat on the way over here was, it's the alcohol, the drugs, the trauma, and the mental health. And that's a societal problem. Because even when we had the war on drugs, the just say no to drugs, the crack era, all of those things had certain responses, but now we know more. So when you know more, you do better, right? So we should be able to do better. There is a lot of programs for youth and people of color specifically. We're fortunate to be in a place where we do have a lot of resources. We're resource rich, but we also don't always talk to each other. We work in silos. We did some of that with King County Equity Now. We tried to build bridges, and we had researchers from the community that know the community. And then we worked really hard to engage each other and come up with new solutions. But it's not just one thing. It's not a magic bullet. And I think that's an American thing that we do. We want to take a pill, or we want to drink a drink, or we want to go through a 30-day treatment and it's all better. But the reality is these are long-term systemic problems. Not only the problems with the systems like the DSHS and the jails and the prisons, those are all issues and we have people on the slave ship in those places. I just want to say that because I've worked on the slave ship while I was trying to make sure that I was having a specific access and focus on my own people. But the other piece of that is there's familial stuff that needs healing. There's racial stuff that needs healing. Folks need to know that, yes, our slavery and our history.
What is the racial stuff that you're talking about? Because
I'm talking about the generational disregard for Black lives, okay? And so we need to have America continue to unwrap that story and be accountable. And it looks many different ways. It looks like finding your roots, and then it also looks like some more revolutionary type shit in the street, excuse my language. But the other piece is there's familiar hurts within families, because we have families that also have people who perpetrated against them in their own family, or recruited them into sex work in their own family or in their church. So we continue to not deal with these traumas and these harms, and then we wonder why people are getting loaded and then going out and acting desperate and breaking into somebody's car. Mm-hmm. It's a desperation. So we need a multi-pronged approach for a multi-pronged problem. Amen. Okay.
Thank you.
That's my speak.
got panelists who want to talk here, but I want to give folks in the audience an opportunity to share. If there's anything anyone wants to share, Dr. Cherry from Atlantic Street Center, right down here in front. Or did you have someone? Okay, we'll go there and then we'll.
My name is Shelley Morrison. I've been in Rainier Valley for 35 years, moved in the middle of the crack epidemic, so thank you for bringing that up. And I've been in Columbia City for 20 years, and I like the discussion about systematic problems. What I have seen in Columbia City is a siege of crime against small businesses. That's property damage, it's vandalism, it's violence. My dear friend Mamadou Ducati was shot in his store in the middle of the day, and that was one of the last African-American shops in the city, and it's had to close. But when I look at the impact of the drug epidemic, and you think of what it costs to support a habit for one day, even if you're buying cheap fentanyl pills at $2 each, you need 30 of them to maintain a high. Small businesses are so easy, such easy prey. And there is organized fencing organizations. And this is where I feel like our police department doesn't have enough resources. Anybody, and same with the home invasions, they can find a place to sell anything that they take. And Tanya, thank you so much for being here. My heart was broken about the Wing Luke Museum, but 3 weeks earlier, and I'm not diminishing that, but we had one guy on a rented Lime scooter with a hammer that smashed 18 windows at 8 businesses in a matter of 7 minutes. And the cost for these small businesses the new security systems, the insurance doesn't want to deal with them anymore. You're asking to replace your front door for a third time. And Tanya, I'd like to ask you, because you see so much of this in Chinatown and they've taken such a brunt of both the pandemic and the epidemic, but what has worked that you've seen in the International District?
Tanya?
Yes, I agree with you. Cost of doing business nowadays is too high. We have to pay for graffiti removal, glass etching, broken windows. We have to worry about our workers, their safety coming in and out of businesses, as well as safety of people who frequent businesses. I've had to recently hire security for my small business because it was just a little bit too much. And so, yes, we need more small business support, especially coming out of the pandemic and after everything that we've seen these last couple of years. And so what I've seen, we try to respond to hate with love, with basically our base focus. It's having feet in the ground, looking out for one another, making sure people report. If someone, just watching out for people, is this person holding a stick? Can we say hi? Can we start a conversation? See if they have any needs? Sometimes, we see a lot of fires happening in the CID because people are, for very many reasons, and just, being out there and just trying to, we believe that we build trust and relationships with people who are in the district, who are unhoused, who frequent there for other reasons, then they will, when they see us, they'll rather do something else. And so I think building that trust, building those relationships out in the community with people, letting people know that you see them has been helpful. But in a way, it doesn't, we see a lot of, graffiti, which is especially damaging in the historical district. And it's going to take everybody. But I also wanted to address an earlier question regarding youth programming. We're not back to the pre-pandemic youth programming that we saw, our community centers, late night basketball. Teens have been asking for this for months. I don't know why we have not done that yet. After school programs, weekends, summer camps. These are what kids want, but these are not available. And so it starts with kids. It starts before they go into high school. How do we work with the school system to make sure our youth who have other things to do? My sister was in gangs when the Blood and Crips are around. I've seen my friends die. I've seen shootings. My house was robbed, and we were not in a safe place. And so how do we especially intervene before they move into high school and find these family structures outside of the typical family? I go to a bunch of events and I hear parents asking, "Hey, my kids are in a bad crowd. What programs can I get them into?" Like they ask, does the police have Explorer programs or other programs available to help get them on the right track or help show them mentorships? And so we need to make sure that these resources are available to parents are aware they're available so they can send their kids. And I think we need an intergovernment agency approach. We need to, government agencies, nonprofits act in silos. How do we collaborate to really focus on youth intervention for youth violence with what we're seeing, the hookah clubs? How do we intervene before youth make that decision? We also, on 12th and Jackson, we see 150 people there a night. People are selling blues for $1, which only gives you a high for half an hour. And every pill that they sell, fentanyl, trank, this is not a drug. This is a poison. People are dying out there. And I see kids with basketballs coming up from Sound Transit, buying these blues and then walking back to the transit system, and we're running after them with fentanyl test strips. Hey, do you realize you need to do this? And it's not just young people, it's also our elders who are buying illegal market Percocet pills, OxyContin that have been laced with fentanyl. And so we really, really need a plan. And, I'm the politician in this group. I'm running for Seattle City Council. We don't have a plan, which is really disappointing. And so I kind of put together a plan. I wonder if you guys want to hear. I call it CARE. I call it Community Action for Resilience and Empowerment. So C stands for Community Engagement and Empowerment, which established a proactive community engagement program, encourages dialogue, trust building. How do we empower local communities to take ownership, neighborhood watch programs, workshops, community-led initiatives I think are really important. And then how do we strengthen our relationships and build trust between, the Seattle Police Department, have accountability, and, establish with the 14 home robberies, that information was not out there for our communities. And even when they had translated, the information, we found out the Vietnamese translation was wrong, and that delayed it for another week. So we need A stands for alternatives and opportunities for youth, develop a comprehensive youth program, positive alternatives to violence and crime, including mentorships, job training, education opportunities, collaboration with schools and community organizations. And how do we fund this community work that we're doing? And the R, resources for mental health and conflict resolution. I think we need to increase mental health resources, support for individuals struggling with emotional or psychological changes. And how do we implement conflict resolution training? And E, economic development and job creation. We need economic engine here. Foster economic growth and stability in neighborhoods. Collaborate with business owners to provide employment opportunities, apprenticeships, vocational training. Because we talk about building more housing, but we need that economic plan as well to go with housing so we don't outpace the other. So I think it's really important that we advocate for a plan and we work together to make sure that there's dialogue between all organizations.
Tanya, thank you for accepting my invitation here. By the way, Tanya is running for Seattle City Council District 2. There was a representative from Tammy Morales' office here, just in the interest of equal time. Is that representative here? I want to give you an opportunity because she spoke about a plan, an opportunity as well. Say whatever you want to say, but I just want to make sure that I'm providing equal time in that instance. So probably what people want to hear is if Councilmember Morales has a plan, but say whatever you want to say.
I will let Amijah go first. Let community.
I just want to say that the community has always had a plan. And so to say that there's no plan to me, and I've never met you, and I'm in the district, so I'm looking to learn more from you. My name is Amijah Smith, longtime resident, born and raised here in Seattle Central District. To say that there is no plan as if we have not advocated for one is disregard to me as a Black person in this community who's always advocated. Everything you listed, the Black community has always asked for and has advocated for, and oftentimes the systems don't provide the resources for us for the plan. But to say that there's no plan and all those things there is a disregard for the advocacy and voice for the community prior to your position to come and, go for political office. We have Gregory Davis right there. There's been a plan in action in Rainier Beach for decades that has been moving forward with regard to safety. So I just want to say that it's hard to hear when there's no connection and you're not connecting the plan that communities who've been marginalized, particularly Black and Indigenous communities, who've been doing this for years and still doing it. So I just wanted to say that. I wanted to follow up when I think about safety, that everything everyone's saying is real. I just hope that we stop pathologizing families, because oftentimes Black communities are the scapegoats for whatever is out there. If you want to do something, attack crime, we go for the Black community because they're the easiest target. We go for the Indigenous because they're the easiest target. So when we talk about plans and solutions, I want to hear how we're not going to be the scapegoat, how that normalized anti-Blackness is no longer going to be the scapegoat and utilized to say we're doing something about the problem when the problem has been perpetuated for generations. That's really important to me. Safety is hugely important to me for small businesses and what have you. And just FYI, that's not the only Black business that was on Rainier. You might want to get a little bit more connected with what's going on. The copy spots, it's about 2 blocks down. It's about 2 blocks down, but anyways, I'm just saying that, but they've been vandalized and they're not the only Black business. I'm just highlighting, it's not the only Black business. You said it was the last one. Anyways, this ain't about you. What I'm trying to say is that I'm very passionate and very committed about our safety and about solutions. And me and my children have been in the streets. We've been doing the work. I bring them to the table so they can understand how advocacy works. And what I've been finding for the most part is when community speaks, they don't give us the resources so that we can solve the problems. There is a village. There is a village out here. That's how Black community moves. We take care of each other. And then if there's extra resources, it's a bonus, but I'm just saying that we don't want to downplay the efforts of the excellent advocacy that's happened before us and the shoulders that we stand on. We have more to do. The crisis is real, but I don't want to see our Black youth, Indigenous youth, and other kids of color being scapegoated for systemic violence, for systemic disease, for systemic pathologies that aren't working, because it's easier to target the oppressed than it is to target the people with the money and the resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Amaya. And you are with Councilmember Morales' office?
I am, yes.
Okay.
So really quickly, can I make a clarification? I'm not saying that there are no plans right now. We all have neighborhood plans. I know that the CID has 4 neighborhood plans that just need funding to be able to get enacted. But I'm saying, like, in terms of, the city, what is the city's plan when it comes to public safety? And one of the initiatives on that plan was, community-led initiatives, which includes community plans. So I know, Maja, you've done amazing work in the community, and I highly respect you, but I did not mean to say that there are no community plans. There are plenty. We just need to enact them. We need to do them.
Okay, go ahead. And as I mentioned before, this is an open forum discussion. Folks are going to agree. Folks will disagree. That's all part of living in a diverse community, different perspectives, different viewpoints. Yeah, I hear you on what you said about African American. I'm an African American business. I'm still here. But if you want to clarify, okay, we'll let council member.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. All I said was that BAOL, BAOL, Mamadou Ducati's shop is one of the last African import shops. I said one of the last in Seattle. And so I think it was very sad to see that leave. I did not say it was one of the last African. We have such rich diversity here in Columbia City, and Tony, the fact that you're here and you're putting this on is phenomenal. And the crimes against minority-owned businesses has been huge. And color does have no crime. A lot of the perpetrators have not been from the minority community. So I know it's difficult to hear, and we're talking quickly, but this, I could go on for a long time naming all the minority and Black-owned businesses in Columbia City.
Okay, I just wanted to give you a chance. Now we'll hear from Councilmember Morales.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Alexis Oliver Turla. I'm the Chief of Staff to Councilmember Tammy Morales. And yes, I just want to say that there has been a significant amount of work by many of the organizations that are here in the South End. Our back to others that have done significant research that has led to real solutions and has been funded in the last 3.5 years. So I'll start with where our core values are. It is repairing the harm. When we say repairing the harm, that is through policies and actions. We have done a number of those with rental issues, protecting renters, making sure that we were getting connected, folks connected with more funding for our unhoused neighbors. It is also democratizing access to resources and power. That is making sure that we get more of the resources into the hands of the most knowledgeable folks. What that looks like is making sure that when folks, just like a beautiful safe place for youth, when their contract goes through DON and everybody gives a high five because we were giving parity for the funding for the people who do the work, and that went through HSD, we fought to make sure that those folks also got equal pay. When that means democratizing access to resources and power, that means when the city debates for progressive revenue, that we make sure that there is dedicated funding to economic development initiative, the highest ever. Before that, we only had a small pittance from the short-term rental tax. And we now have almost $30 million dedicated to economic development initiative and projects that are mostly dedicated here in the South End. The next part is to make sure that we are preparing for the 7th generation. What that looks like is working with people so that we have also environmental justice, such as making sure that there is funding that we also won in the progressive revenue fight, so that there is funding for a Green New Deal Oversight Board, not just having folks that are there speaking their voice to power, but they also have money to dictate how that should go. There's money dedicated to the Wamish cleanup, folks who have been working with a 10-year plan for probably 10 years, and actually having the money to move that forward. That's what that looks like. When we talk about having resources for our youth, that means fighting for services such as making sure that there is workforce support that we have fought for and won millions of dollars. What that looks like is when our colleagues didn't even know what restorative justice was, we made sure that we were putting money into restorative justice and expanding that within our schools. What that looks like is when everyone wanted to put money into a program around higher education that actually does not benefit Black children, we fought to make sure that there was money for mental health services. That is what real credible solutions looks like, and making sure that we lead with community and that we take those solutions that community brings us and we then actualize them in real tangible wins in the budget. And anyone who wants to talk to me about what those real tangible wins have been over the last 3.5 years, feel free to see me after this.
Thank you. And Dr. Terry, and then we're gonna get back here in a second from Atlanta Street Center. Would you introduce yourself, please? And
Hi, good evening. My name is Dr. Pilateri, and I run Atlantic Street Center. But Tony, I'm not here to really talk about anything for Atlantic Street Center because everyone in this space is saying the same thing for youth in our future. I live up the street, so I'm talking also as a resident and a voter and someone who moved here, being raised in the housing projects of Chicago, living on the Upper East Side in Brooklyn, New York. And now I live here, a smaller version of Chicago, a smaller version with very similar complex overlays. So I'm gonna be a little bit of a, pardon me, no offense, I'm gonna be a little bit of a devil's advocate because I'm not here long enough. I don't have the tenure you have. She knows, this is my right hand right here. She puts me in my place. But I'm gonna tell you one thing I don't hear enough of in these meetings, and it's to your, oh, we heard you say the answer. You didn't. You identified that there is one. I heard you very clearly. We don't have a system to sustain anything you're proposing. And this is a policy discussion. I like being at the grassroots level. I like talking about the services with my staff and seeing the good every day. But I'm sorry, there's no system to sustain anything that they've said back there. It's going to be a sprinkle of $1 million here, $10,000 drop over there. Is that going to make sure that in 2, 3, 4 generations, our kids are doing what we grew up doing? I was in Upper Bound. I had a great counselor. I had 7 neighbors that gave me a spanking because that's the generation I'm from. That may be different now, but the spanking may be mentoring, tough love, and it shouldn't matter what color we are. When we're sitting here in this theater representing marginalized citizens, I don't care if it's gender-based, race-based, faith-based, someone's carrying a narrative, and all this divisive talk lets them win. Build the system, put in your pieces. It's like, you know, I don't want to minimize it, but kids build Legos and they can make galaxies out of friggin' Lego. But we can't say that piece right there works, fund it and sustain it. We can't say that piece over there works, fund it. It's a drop here and there. If Seattle can figure that out, you're halfway there. You really are. And that's that one solution I hear you say. I didn't hear you say anything specific. I put it together myself. Build the system and then sustain the change you want to see. Tony, that's what we need.
Can I
Thank
say
you.
one part to that?
One
of the biggest agencies I worked with in the past was Atlantic Street
Can
Center.
you talk into the microphone?
You know, it's not that, what I'm saying is that you're right. It's how do you say it really fast, but to know that all of the components have to be recognized and then you build. That's why I mentioned them, because we're not doing, Atlantic Street Center had and thank God you mentioned, I would mention it eventually, because thank God they had some of the real strong blocks that helped build Seattle Team for Youth, that helped build and helped fund those other outside areas. Mary mentioned one thing in particular when we had the GOTS program. And what we did was call people together, anyone, and found out what is the resource that you need. The other thing about it was a program that was named by those on the streets. And they named it to get off the streets. And what we did was we asked each one at the time, and I'm not going to how it all built up, but I just want to say that we found the need that everyone needed. And we brought in those resources. Thank you. And it included a big group of folks. Talk to Mary about it. Mary was an integral part of when we built that. So it does take all of us. It does take that piece to find out what is it about your piece that fits right here where we need it. And you got to stay though. You got to stay with us. And we can solve this issue. I am a firm believer in that. I've seen it day in and day out. But let's stop this arguing at the top. Stop this arguing and finger pointing and things of that nature and decide. Last point. I remember taking Norm Rice out. This is how far back it goes. And I took Norm. Norm said, John, take me out there. And it was just him and I. And we stopped and we talked to so many groups of people that were hanging on the streets. And all I said was, here's a man that can help change things. What do you want to tell him? And after the conversation got going, they said, man, you're the mayor, aren't you? Because he was in jeans and things like this. And when we went out to all these different places, he went back and started putting those blocks in place. And those blocks is what cut the crime, the issues that were going on in our schools and so on and so forth, because he found the people committed to doing it. That's all I'm going to say for the moment.
Okay, we are, thank you for listening to us. Thank you for watching us. This is Rainier Avenue Radio. My name is Tony B. If you are just tuning in, we're having a discussion on the increased recent violent crimes in South Seattle. If you're tuning in and you're looking for a solution, I don't know if you've heard one. If you're tuning in and you're trying to find out, well, what's going on? Because I've been hearing a lot of various scuttlebutt. I hope you're getting what you need. This is just an open forum to have discussion. We might find an answer. I don't know. But at the very least, we want to find out what's going on within our communities. We've only got about 35 minutes left. And so I want to hear the voices of our community, but we've got panel members up here. Respond to what our community has been saying. I know that you may have something in particular that you'd like to say. Our community is looking for an answer to why we have increased crime. And is there something that can be done? Are there any safety measures that we can take? Is there a way to de-escalate? Or, yeah, y'all, well, I know you've been waiting patiently.
I have been waiting patiently and I have been listening to absolutely everything everyone said. So not only do I work in the Superior Court system, and I have for over 25 years, I also worked in law enforcement for 3 years. And I have a group called For Black Women Talking, and we talk to different groups. And our goal for Black women talking to Native women, for Black women talking to Hispanic women, for Black women talking to Jewish women, on and on and on. So, solutions. As a parent, as a resident of the South End, as someone who's seen a lot of what you guys are talking about, as someone who has had their car stolen 4 times, and can give you solutions on what you need to do when your car is stolen, because I've gotten some experience. But the bottom line is, here we are. And I really was listening to you because you're frustrated. And that's understandably so regarding our youth. And I also agree that there are a lot of organizations out there that have been given a nickel here and a dime there. I agree. The bottom line is, we must. And things have changed since COVID. Let's just be clear on that. It used to be back in the good old days of Mayor Norm Rice and other politicians and Larry Gossett and on, that you would get out there, walk the block, walk the streets. Whenever there's some conflict going on, you would have someone that was there from the community that was involved in politics. They would, or even from your churches, ministers and pastors that the community respected and admired. They were there trying to turn it down, turn the volume down, and trying to get people to come together and work together. So there it is. Times have changed, and our youth are something else. But there's something else based on what they're seeing adults do. And they're based on something else on what they hear adults say. And they're based upon something else based on how they hear adults act. And so they are influenced by that. So I also remember Judge Pat at the Juvenile Justice Center. And this is going to say to you, and I'm going to give you some answers, is that when she finally went up there, because this is a fact, there were only at one time African American youth in the Juvenile Justice Center. So it goes back to the comment that was made. Why does it always fall on the backs? Well, here we are today. Today you have to activate. Bottom line, I work downtown, I see all that stuff on 3rd Avenue. I'm up at 12th and Jackson, I see all that stuff on 12th and Jackson. We all know drugs are bad, and they have gotten worse. Here is the solution. You cannot be in your silo. You cannot have your group here working with youth. You cannot have your group there working with youth. You cannot be petitioning the city for your nickels and dimes, and they cannot be petitioning the city for their nickel and dimes. There must be an umbrella organization. So our youth, you're throwing money at them, you have programs, but they're not. This is a fact. It's LOVE. They are not feeling the love. They're not feeling the love and the support of their community. They're not feeling the love and the support of the school system. These children are lost. They're lost. And they don't have a safe landing. And so it is critical as adults, number one, you have got to set the example of your actions, your conduct, and your behavior. And then secondly, you must hold the youth accountable. So you can commit crimes and say, well, this is systemic and all this. If you are a victim, you can't say, well, they did that because If that was happening in your home and your child acted up and your child misbehaved and your child disrespected you, you would hold that child accountable. And you're holding that child accountable in love, understanding the long-range purpose of their punishment. And the long-range purpose is for them to become responsible members and contributing members of society. So these organizations that we're hearing about, and I don't know who can take full responsibility for that, but every organization needs to come together, and we cannot have black on black crime, and it's like, okay, we got to deal with this. We cannot have Asian on Asian crime. Okay, we got to deal with this. We can't have Hispanic on Hispanic crime. Okay, we got to deal with this. We can't have the synagogues being attacked and being shot up. It's okay, we got to deal with this. No, each and every one of these groups, we must all come together and say, as one voice, this has got to stop. And it stops with me, and it stops with us, and it's because and about them politicians. I am tired of seeing politicians on YouTube. Get out. Get from behind your desk. Get out there and you walk, set an example. You are there representing the people. Set an example. You want the people to stick their necks out. You want the people to take risks. You stick your neck out. You take a risk. You be out there on the street and you say, not in my neighborhood. The buck stops with me, and you will get people to follow you. So here's my umbrella organization, getting all these groups together. Everyone in this room, and your family, and your friends, and your community, taking responsibility, not being afraid. The kids know, for goodness sake, the kids know you're scared of them. Stop being scared of them. Stop it.
Jacqueline, I'm going to stop you there because I want to move on.
I was on a roll.
I know. I know.
Very
But
good.
We're almost out of time here.
I'm a
and I just
spoken
wanna-
word artist.
and
I'm on a roll.
I want to make sure that I say at this point, one of the ways that you hold people accountable is by voting for them. So if you register to vote, if you haven't, register to vote, and you should hold your elected officials accountable. We are going to have a debate here on the 4th of October for District 2 Seattle City Council. The incumbent is Tammy Morales, and the other candidate is Tanya Wu. Ask them questions, find out who supports what you support, and then hold them accountable. I just wanted to bring up that voters thing. I know we got some questions back there. Really quickly, just 1 second, because I didn't get to panel, and I know y'all are up here. Do you have other comments? And I'm going to hold you really quickly because we only got about 25 minutes left. Any of our panelists have anything that you want to say in response to what you've heard here, or just add to the conversation? And thank you, Jack.
Hey, y'all. So I think one thing that a lot of us are missing out on, especially those of us who not considered youth being ended at 24, is that how many youth are in here? Can you raise your hand if you're like under the age of like 30, under the age of 25, under the age of any of these things, right? And I think it's very important that we engage in community and engage in youth. We actually ask what they want, right? Because let's be honest, like me being in my late 20s, like we've lost a lot, especially those of us who are people of color. We've literally lost, I mean, older folks have really lost our trust, you know, in these communities. A lot of these communities have lost a lot of these community organizations have lost the trust of the people. Police, have they ever had the trust of Black communities? And I think it's really important that when looking at these issues, we try and center some of the root causes, because this was about youth violence, right? This was about gun violence, right? And I think it's important to, one, stay on that topic, but also let's not call something community-led or youth-focused if we're not actually investing in communities, extracting community leaders, and not having youth at the table to make these decisions. Not having youth at the table to make these decisions. And I also think it's important to let's call out the fact that like rent prices have something to do with the homeless crisis. Rent prices, lack of affordable healthcare, lack of literally people can't make a living wage. College educated people are unemployed. And these issues cause mental health issues, which also cause drug addiction, right? And really, as a biracial brother, it makes me sick to see people always scapegoating Black kids. Other communities, especially other communities, coming in here and weaponizing anti-Blackness against Black children, weaponizing anti-Blackness against Black kids, and then even Black elders weaponizing anti-Blackness against fellow Black community members. It's important that if we want to do any of this stuff, we have to center with love. We have to center this with understanding the reality of a system that you got to pay to play, right? Yeah. We got to understand that in this system, we have to start not just holding the folks, poor Black, brown, indigenous youth accountable. We also have to hold these people who are raising the rent accountable. We're also having to hold the people who are like saying, oh yeah, we want to do some sort of diversity effort, but then their diversity doesn't reflect the diversity of the community. And also I think just because you say something a bunch of times in a row doesn't make it true, right? And I think over and over the years, we've really started, we've had community panels. I'm from Tacoma. We've had a lot of town halls. We've had a lot of these things, right? And what do they call doing the same thing over and over again? And I think that's what we've been doing with a lot of stuff. So I think it's time that us as adults, those of us who have the bread, those of us who have access to resources, are able to give that to the youth, are able to step back and allow the youth to lead their movements. For those of us who identify as men, especially in the Black community, Black women have been the ones putting in the work for the last, I would say, 20, 30, 40 years, uplifting these Black women leaders, right?
I'm gonna.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much.
What I do want to do really quickly is, because this is an open forum, is I want to talk to some of the youth over there. So put the microphone in their face, and you weren't raising your hand, but I would like to know what y'all think about this conversation. And he said, "Who's ever under 20? Tell me how old you are, what your name is."
Hello, my name's Aaron. I am 16. I'm Luciano, and I'm 15. I think something that wasn't addressed that's a problem is the funding with schools. I think that, or lack of. And I also think that what we're learning in schools could use a update, because it's kind of, it's pretty old. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just like to say that I agree with everything that everyone's saying today. And I just want to say that it's really important that we're talking about these things and that we're keeping the youth as focus, because it's really scary as things progress nowadays, and school lockdowns are coming every day. And, it's kind of hard to go through, a single day of school when every other time there's a threat of shooting or there's a threat of violence or anything like that. So that's just where I'm at.
Is there anyone else under 25 that wanted to have a conversation?
While I come over here, I just want to say,
I think we have somebody right here.
Mr. Tony, while I hand the mic over, I just want to say, touch on that I don't think that we're paying attention to the kids as much as we should. Like he said, kids are scared. And that's something, when you're scared, you tend to act out in afraid and fear. And then they don't have nowhere to go. Parents, moms are at work, dads aren't in the home. They don't have no one doing homework with them. Half of these kids don't. Sometimes when I have to talk to my son, I have to give him a hug. My son is only 9 years old, and he's already dealing with a lot at 9 years old in elementary school. They're already having to deal with so much. And I have to realize, when I'm talking to my young Black son, who is 9 but looks like he's 13, that sometimes I have to just give him a hug. I have to talk to him out of love, because he's getting talked to and all these things are going on, and he may be just scared. And then I put my son in sports, but what if he didn't have a mom that did that? So if he's scared and no one's telling him that they love him, and then he's not in an organized sport or doing something like that, where are they supposed to go? What are they supposed to do? So as a result, you have these kids running rampant because they're seeking love. They find a gang member says, hey, I love you, bro. You're my bro. Here, put this gun in your hand and go rob this person so we can have pizza tonight or whatever, because we need food, because we need drugs. And I just think that we need to pay a little bit more attention to our youth, the programs. Why is it that we can't get programs funded? Why is a field that has no utilization other than ground being charged so much for kids to go out there and play on? That makes no sense. So I just want to focus on that just a little bit. Like, these kids need love, they need support, and they need somewhere to go. So I think you're going right here.
Well, I want to get to the young person right behind, and then I know we're almost out of time. Right behind.
Hello, my name is Camille Gipaya. I'm in my mid-20s. I'm also part of the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle. I think the biggest thing that we're talking about is accountability. What does that look like? And what is safety for the community? We need to redefine what that looks like. I think oftentimes we're talking about policing people. Has that been successful? That's the question. The answer is no. Accountability for the children. I think oftentimes with the conversation, does that mean incarceration, jail? Is that what it looks like in this crowd? I think accountability means the systemic change that was mentioned. Systemic change that will actually support the children with a future. That could be with educational, which was mentioned, having those resources, and kind of with the environmental justice that's happening, that's related to the health disparities that's happening with the marginalized group in Seattle. I think oftentimes we blur the line of what accountability is. I think the conversation needs to surround what is safety, what is security, what does that look like being community-led. I think everyone has mentioned, from kind of like the older generation, that meant a village. So emphasizing that has been kind of like happening with the different nonprofit organization, but I think the conversation should be, what is security? What is community-led safety? That does not mean policing.
All right, I want to get to that brother back there, but first I want to ask, the recent uptick in violence, by a show of hands, is that a teen problem?
No.
The recent uptick in violence, so no one thinks that's a teen problem.
No.
Okay, the recent uptick in violence, is that a homelessness problem?
No.
Is it a drug-related problem?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm just asking. I know some people, so I'm gonna limit your time on the mic because we only have 15 minutes left. So the gentleman in the back has been waving his hand, and I don't want him to fall out. Well, let the gentleman in the back have his conversation, and then I will get to you. And I see you got your hand up as well, and there've been some other hands up. So if I limit what you're saying, don't get mad. Well, you can get mad if you want to, but I have to make sure that we stay on time.
Well, I'll make it kind of short. I'm Terrell Elmore. I'm a South End resident, but I also work with the youth, the CD Panthers, football and cheer for the last 27 years. Now, the question that I have, everything is what we're talking to is about, and I'm speaking on the youth part of it. I work at Ground Zero. So all the kids that you're talking about, before they even get to the problems, we're not working on this, making a good solution before it becomes a problem. Now, everybody is talking about all these programs and stuff. It's flying past us. We don't receive any of that. We don't see any of these people. I see Amaja, I see community passageways who help secure our fields. I could even go, just think about Rainier Beach, Rainier Ravens. Those things, these teams have been here 50 years. Rainier Eagles, gone. Rainier Beach, that gentleman, it was right up there. That was 40 years, gone. Think about all those families and kids that have nothing to do. And I'm fearing that for the CD Panthers right now. So what I want to see is people come see me, and that umbrella you talking about, let's put that umbrella down here where the kids actually are now, because the CD Panthers is going to be gone in a minute if we don't get no help. You know, the community centers, It's supposed to be community, but when I go into Garfield Community Center and all these other community centers, they're charging for everything. They're not, these kids are not getting what they need. It used to be you could go in there, get a meal, do your homework, do all these things. This thing's about money. But we're not, but what you guys are talking about, you're not talking about what the kids can benefit from. We need you guys. I want to see you guys. That's what youth football is for. Like they asked me, I'm a coach. They said, well, what are you just a coach? I said, no, I'm everything.
Okay, I'm gonna cut you off right there because I see a couple, thank you. I see a couple of young people in the back and I want to hear their voices. So the couple of young people in the back, I want to hear your voices too.
Hello. My name's Seichi. I am 30. I live in the very close by. I was still trying to figure out what I was going to say, if I was going to say something. So sorry if this is off the cuff, but I have a hard time reconciling the police presence or lack of police presence. And so when I'm driving on the street, I know I'm not going to get a ticket. Like I could do like anything. And it's probably not going to happen because like I don't see police anymore, right? And so I understand that there's a whole nother problem with police. But now that there's no police, they're putting up cameras at every intersection. And so they're going to make money from tickets that way because cameras can't racially profile. But there's a long-term problem that I hear addressed a lot right now. And that has to do with youth funding and programs, but there's also a short-term problem of violence. And so if there's a recent uptick in violence, then this is a short-term problem that also has to be thought about how to deal with. And so those are the lack of ideas that I'm not really hearing right now, is what kind of immediate solutions are there? Like neighborhood watch, is that effective? I don't know. But that's,
can you pass the mic to the young person sitting right next to you? Right to your right. Yep, you're on. What brings you here?
I am with Seichi. We actually live on the block, so we've seen the glass breaking. Actually, someone broke into our apartment, and I woke up at 4 a.m. to them trying to use our keypad to get into our apartment.
Someone broke into your apartment at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you were home.
Yes, we were sleeping. This was a couple weeks ago. So like Seichi said, there is an uptick in violence. I mean, everybody's saying the same thing. And I'm scared, you know, I'm sure everyone is. I also wonder what the short-term solutions are, and we're not short-term, but what can we do now to address these issues?
Thank you. And I bring this up, you know, because that's one of the things that I was looking for. When we're talking about long-term solutions, when we're talking about programs, we also have to consider that people are facing crime, not now, right now. And is there a solution for that? Is there anything that we can do? How can we de-escalate this? But again, this is just sharing voices right now. Teresa's been waiting a long time. So let me give Teresa the microphone. I'm going to give you all an opportunity for final words before we go. And just, I got my man over here too.
So there's a couple of things that I want to say. I work for Atlantic Street Center. So this is partly mixed with my 23 years at Atlantic Street Center and 25 plus years in social services and my personal experience because I went to Rainier Beach High School and I lived in the Rainier Beach area. There's a few things that are happening. And I just want to share a couple of things. Atlantic Street Center worked very closely with South Lake High School when it was all one unit. It was South Shore and the community center and everybody was in there. And we used to go over to the kids at South Lake High School and we would talk to them. A lot of them were teen parents. And I remember talking to them one day and trying to be hip and talk their language. And I said, act like you have some home training. And they said to me, and was very passionate about it, you're assuming that we had the same upbringing that you did. That was my first aha moment when it came to youth. I started to realize that what I had at home, they did not have at home. They did not have two adults in the house that taught them right from wrong. They didn't have two adults in the house that went to work every day and was making a living for our family. So they were dealing with getting by however they could. I remember meeting a fifth grader that was taking care of her younger sibling, and her mom had just had a baby. Her mom was on drugs. The fifth grader was taking care of the household. So those are the kids that we need to reach. Those are the kids that are in the place now that are saying, we have nothing to lose, because the financial gap is getting wider. So for me, I had my kids come to things like this because it was important for them to learn that. But what happens to those kids that don't have parents that are doing that? Those same kids are sitting in the classroom with all of our kids. And a very wise person told me that as well. It's up on me to do better, because although I'm doing better for my child, the child next to her may need help. I had another aha moment very recently. Atlanta Street Center has the Summer Academy program, and we do the Summer Academy program right off of Rainier and Cloverdale. That's my neighborhood. That's where I grew up at. It's nothing to be over there. Nothing. I drop a couple of kids off at the program that I personally took it upon myself to drop the kids off to make sure that they got there. And I want you to be clear. There are some kids that are in that summer program that we literally had to hand walk the paperwork to get the parents to fill it out, to put their kids in the program so they will be somewhere safe for the summer. So I drop a couple of kids off, and I live in Federal Way because I can't afford to live in Seattle. That wage gap is. I'm headed back to Federal Way. I'm driving down Martin Luther King, and I see someone waving their hand going, stop, 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 stop. Call 911, call 911. She's telling everybody to call 911. There is gunfire blocks away from our Summer Academy program. So I learned that the kids are going through trauma. They're used to being on lockdown. Our building goes on lockdown with the schools. They're used to that. They're used to that. And so things are just going, excuse my French, to hell in a handbasket. I'm gonna say this one thing, because Mr. Davis said this to me, and I was very discouraged that day. And you know what he said to me? Do not give up the faith. You are where you need to be. We didn't get here in a day. It's gonna take us much longer to get out.
Let me give this gentleman over here an opportunity.
Yes, thank you, thank you. My name's Kong Lefayette, and I live in SeaTac. I'm from Tacoma, and the thing is, when we look at these youth and people talk about accountability and holding these youths accountable, who's gonna hold their hand upon release? Because it's the reentry that kills people, and all. So you can talk about holding them accountable, but if there's nobody to help them out along the way, especially upon release, they're doomed. And a little suggestion is, like, while they're incarcerated or going through their accountability moment, give them a renewal of the mind, re-educate them, redirect their footsteps. And if need be, you know, teach them a skill, teach them a craft. And because people, all I hear about is the wage gaps. The thing is, union saved me. Like I said, I did 24 years in prison for first-degree murder. And here I am, a productive member of society. I'm part of the one of the highest paid unions in the state, and all. And I haven't even topped out yet. And the thing is, if we don't invest in these children, this is the future right here. And if we don't invest in them, we might as well give everything else away to people that don't deserve it. And for me personally, all of these kids are hurting. They're looking for love. One, it's hard for a mom to be a mom and dad in the same breath. And not only that, but when we look at other things, because I want to jump on to going green. Who's going to help these people transition from gas to electric? Who's going to pay for that? Is that $30 million slush fund that you guys have going to pay for all of that? People that are on gas in Seattle? That's one of the things I want to know, is because when you speak on things like that, you need to be informed about who else it's going to affect.
I do appreciate your conversation. Thank you. I'm going to give you just each about 30 seconds to a minute. Use that time how you would like to use it. I'm suggesting that you talk to this audience here, to those folks who are watching, to those folks who are listening, and provide them with something that you see as valuable. Whatever that is. You've heard the conversation today. I asked if it was a teen problem. Everybody says no, but we're talking about teens who are committing the crimes. But not saying that it's a teen problem, but addressing all the issues that are impacting teens. And we are here because groups of teens are gathering and putting guns to people's heads. But maybe it's not a teen problem. Is it a homelessness problem? Whatever it is, we've talked about a number of different things here, but you are the panelists. You're going to have about 30 seconds to a minute. Please share something with our audience that is from you. We'll start with you, Nick.
Go ahead and have it come the other way, actually.
Well,
I'll jump in here. I don't want to, the one thing that I haven't heard us talk about in terms of accountability are these wealthy people who are not paying their fair share of taxes. The problem with Parks doesn't get the resource because fair share of taxes aren't being paid. The problem with schools, they don't get the resource because fair share of taxes are not being paid. Us nonprofits, we're not getting the fair share because they're not paying their fair share. When we pursued progressive taxes, people said no, because the businesses said, oh, we're gonna have to raise our prices. They got to pay their fair share. Somebody, my son wrote, Real Be Free, pay the fee. Look for it on Bandcamp. Pay the fee. Those are the people we have to hold accountable. We have not mentioned them. We're talking all down here about us and who's getting the oppression, and we're not talking about the accountability of those folks. And we've tried, and we will continue to try, but we need to get to the state of Washington to get that regressive tax gotten out of there. And we need to make sure these folks pay their fair share. Because the uptick in folks not paying their fair share creates an uptick in violence.
Come on. What he said, but also, I think it's really important that we do just not look at accountability as like Joe and Jam being scared, right? We got to look at like the tax policy that allows billionaires and these giant businesses to come in here and really gentrify the block, right? It's interesting that you've got different groups of poor folks, different groups of BIPOC folks beefing with each other when you have giant conglomerates coming in here and buying up literally the whole block. When you go up towards the Central District from Rainier, they're literally building giant blocks, right? And unopposed, we're talking about, oh yeah, we need to hold folks accountability, but accountability doesn't mean weaponizing slavery-like tactics in Black and brown people. Yeah. We got to start defunding some of these organizations and refunding the people, refunding the youth, refunding these programs. And I also want to end it on that. I really, really am happy to be here, and this was amazing. And I think we're going to get some good stuff done, but we just got to stop looking right here and looking up here. Yeah.
I think for me, again, my name is Jay. I think for me, people are just tired. You're really just tired. And you're working every day. You're trying to be responsible. You're trying to take care of what's needed and necessary for you in your life. You can't be everywhere at the same time. And so that's why you have elected leaders. And I certainly hold elected leaders accountable and responsible. And I don't believe a leader should be in office if they are not willing to step out into the community and be seen and be heard, and not using social media to make their points and positions.
You know, I was thinking, listen to everyone. I used to be South Shore PTSA, and they were pitting South Lake against South Shore. And my kids, they all knew all about police lockdowns. When they went to Cleveland, they ended up telling everyone else what to do during school lockdowns. There were so many times they just missed the whole Jack in the Box and Safeway shootings and so forth. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I'm sure you guys all remember. It was day after day. But you know, what bothered me, and there were a couple of things. There was a program between South Lake and South Shore, which I really appreciated. And I remember the kids, a lot of the parents were telling them bad things about South Lake kids. And of course, a lot of us were opposed to that too. But one of the kids really liked the South Lake kid and said, I want to go to your school. I want to be just like you. And it was a South Lake student who said, I made a lot of mistakes. Don't be like me. And that's why we're there. And it really saddened me to see that then there became other principals and they wanted them to talk to the private schools kids at Seattle Arts Academy and all these other places. And I asked them why. I said, we should talk to each other, because I learned a lot when the kids felt comfortable enough to talk to each other. So they didn't have solutions, but they actually understood what some of the things were and what they were looking for. Another thing that struck me, listen to this, when they finally fixed up South Lake's exterior and South Shore, and I kept thinking, this is good, they should invest in this. But I also thought this investment means our people will not be there. Yeah. I look at North Beacon Hill, we are not there. I look at all these other areas, the mitigation funds, they built the light rail. And again, they built the light rail knowing that a lot of us are going to get hit because they built a road right in the street. And I think about the lack of insurance coming in Chinatown, Rainier Beach, and all these other areas. And I thought this is the way, without saying they're gentrifying us, they're gentrifying us. They're just, and I just feel like people are going to say I'm conspiring and all this stuff, but it just feels that way. You know, so that's all I want to say, but I'm glad that we have this because it made me think about a lot of things. I hope that we all keep in touch too.
Who is they?
There are a lot of people. It's and I hear you about the funds, and we're all fighting over little small funds. But ultimately, when the funds come, and they could be the bank, they could be the corporate leader, they could be the government official. They are a lot of people, right? I mean, again, I think about Chinatown International District, and there are 20 shelters within 1 mile of Chinatown. And part of it is because I think we're friendlier people. We all understand, and there's a lot more services. I would hate to see unhoused people go up to the north end where they're going to be treated really badly. So part of that, I understand that too. This is why it's a lot of different things. But it's again talking about the distrust of police and how a lot of us have felt about things, right? And again, when it comes to everything they again, the people who are supposed to be in charge, when they write something out, they don't write it in Chinese or in Vietnamese or Swahili or anything else. It's always us. And what I really get tired about is they're getting paid. Those people, right, are getting paid to come up with solutions. And I always say that, why are we the ones that are coming up with solutions? And if they don't work, they're gonna blame us. And I just feel like, you know, you have all that data that you sometimes share, you sometimes don't share. So I just feel like, you know, a lot of the kids, going back to the South Lake kid and how astute they were, you know, they said much better than everybody else. And again, seeing that a lot of the kids got together and they were talking. And it really saddened me to also hear the South Lake student explain what went wrong. And I just think that a lot of teachers, you know, and other folks, they just, I mean, they felt comfortable enough at that one moment to allow me to go ahead and listen to it. But it's the powerlessness too. You know?
I appreciate it. I just want to be, again, when we say they,
I can tell you.
I think that we need to be careful, right? Because who is
it's us too. It is us too. I would say it's also a lot of us.
But I'm just putting Tanya.
I agree with everything that has been said, and I think the one thing I would want to add is, you know, it's like it's been said, it all starts here with us and making sure that communication channels are open, that we're getting to know each other, getting to know our neighbors. When the door gets broken down, we hear it, and we have to say something to help one another. And especially when it comes to our small businesses, it comes to our, in-house neighbors. It's about building relationships and getting to know the village, getting to know your friends and your friends' parents, and holding each other accountable. And, we are able to de-escalate. We see a lot of fights when we're on a community watch walks, and there's times when people have deadly weapons with them. And, but we found out that we've been able to de-escalate most everything, except for one time when there was a shooting in the encampment that we were in. And for that, we couldn't deal with that ourselves. So I think we need to advocate for, the alternatives to policing, having case workers out there, social workers, case managers out there, working in our communities with everybody. And also, hopefully working with our police department. There needs to be definitely reform, culture coping training, and a lot of things need to work out. But for things when it comes to violent weapons, I don't think we have the answers to that.
Maria, I know you haven't had a lot of time, but I want to give you some time right now.
Thank you. What's really present in my mind is the absence of elected leadership in what's happening right now. So we spend a lot of time looking at what we can do, and we have to remember that we pay taxes so that our electeds can take leadership. We pay taxes. We need to fix the broken tax system, because as long as the city is collecting taxes based on development, it's always going to want to grow. And when it wants to grow, it gentrifies. We cannot stay in place. And any of the programs we have is not going to be the priority. So even if we had a wonderful plan, that stability and long-term funding is not going to be there. So my ask to each and every one of us and the radio audience is that we need to have our own conference and lay down all this collective plan so we can be together. Number one. Number two, please contact your elected officials and get them to take leadership. Make a statement. They haven't even made a statement on this issue, and take action. That's all I can say. There's so much to be done.
Captain Hayes.
Ditto, 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 right on down. And I say it like that because that's the way I operated for 39 years. And and I know it doesn't sound like it's giving an answer, but it really is. Maria summed it up really well. But,
we need people to take their big dogs and walk around the neighborhood. Okay.
You know
That's
what?
basic.
You know what? In some respects,
Yeah.
in some respects, that's exactly what it is, because you're visible.
Yeah.
Because
Up there.
it's saying you're walking, everything you can think of. But the reality is you're saying to everyone passing by, you're active, you're aware, and you are going to be able to take the first steps in making the difference we are all looking for. Now, someone said we can't.
No, I said we care.
We care. Yes, you show you care. Thank you, Mary. That's exactly it. It does show that you care. I'm gonna leave it like that because I have seen what change can do and what people can do to make the change. And you are, when I say it, you're in the room, you are really in the room. You are really in the room. And the most disgusting thing I've ever seen are people who argue with people. And they discourage from 1% to 99%. All of them play a part in the difference we're going to make. I've seen it. I know it can be done, and it can be done safely. They're right here, okay? But you're right there as well, Mary.
Thank you. First of all, how about a round of applause for our panel? Thank you all for being here. And please give yourselves a round of applause too. Great discussion. The purpose of doing this wasn't really to say, okay, we're going to get some people to solve a problem that's been going on for a long time. It was to create awareness to what's happening. And if you are that person and you heard one of them who at 4 o'clock in the morning, someone breaks into your home and has a firearm, that's not good. And that's where we're going. That's why we're having this meeting, is because there is an uptick. And again, the word violent crimes and burglaries. And so what this was about making sure that our community had an opportunity to share their opinion, voice their opinion. And for folks who have been working on this issue, they have had an opportunity to share their opinion and listen to what you've had to say. So thank everyone again at Rainier Avenue Radio. Thank you, Deanna. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Daniel. Again, we decided on Friday to do something. Friday's the weekend. And so we went into the weekend and we contacted people because there was a sense of urgency. And so here we are at Thursday. And for those of you who are viewing and watching, whether you like it or whether you don't like it, this is our community and this is what we do. Thank you for tuning in to Rainier Avenue Radio .world. I remind you again that on the 4th of October, we'll be hosting the District 2 debate for Seattle City Council. The incumbent is Tammy Morales. The other candidate is Tanya Wu, who's on this panel discussion. There is a representative for Tammy Morales here today who did have an opportunity to speak. And so again, voting is critical. You've heard about what that is. And some shameless self-promotion. Tomorrow we'll be broadcasting a couple of football games. There's at Rainier Beach against Ballard at 5 o'clock, and then Franklin Quakers. I'm a Quaker. Franklin Quakers will be playing Roosevelt. We'll be broadcasting that game at 7:45. And again, in partnership with Como, King 5, Converge, we'll also be broadcasting the Seattle District 1 City Council position. That will be at South Seattle Community College. We'll be broadcasting the District 3 debate. That will be at the Broadway Performance Hall. We'll be broadcasting District 4. That will be at the University of Washington Hub Conference Center. And we'll be broadcasting debate number 5. And that will be held at North Seattle Community College. I say that to say a lot of times people don't know what we do at Rainier Avenue Radio, but people who know what we do feel what we do. And so I'm just sharing with you some of the things that we have going on at the radio station while I have you listening to this program. Thank you again for listening. Thank you again for joining. And I hope everyone is safe tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.